Shri Shri Radha Madhav ki Grantra Srimad Bhagavatam ki Shri Prabhupada ki Nitai Gaur all glories to Sambhadra, all glories to Sambhadra, all glories to Sambhadra, all glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gaur. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Nami Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesh Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatari. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Ram Hare. Thank you very much. So today is the day when ISKCON was incorporated in 1966. So we are having a 47th birthday of ISKCON today. Happy birthday to ISKCON. So in the early days, when Srila Prabhupada came to New York, before coming, for about 40 years he prepared to launch this movement, this International Society for Krishna Consciousness. He prepared to get enough men, to get enough money, so he could go to the West with some kind of force and try to establish this movement. But anything and everything that he tried, it failed. Everything that he put his hands on failed completely. In the end, when he was leaving, there was one of his disciples who was ready to go with him. One young boy was ready to go. And the night before taking the ride into the Jaladuta, this person cancelled out. So in the morning, Srila Prabhupada found out that the person who was going to go on Jaladuta with Srila Prabhupada is back up. So Srila Prabhupada was left completely alone and was left, of course, penniless because he had something like 40 rupees that did not buy very much in America those days. Although about 50 years before that, 1 Indian rupee used to be worth 13 US dollars. In about 1915, 1916, 1 Indian rupee was worth 13 US dollars. But this was 50 years later. So Indian rupee in America was actually worth a big fat zero because it wasn't a traded currency at all. So everything he had was a zero. And other than that, he had 1 trunk full of Srimad Bhagavatams that he had printed by the help of Hanuman Prasad Podar from Gorakhpur. He was able to publish 1 set of, meaning 1 canto, the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam in 3 volumes he was able to print. So he had a trunk full of that. He had a typewriter to type his own, and maybe a couple of pairs of clothes to change. But maybe not everybody knows, that trunk was also stolen later. So all those Srimad Bhagavatams, they did not get distributed. They got stolen. His typewriter that he loved so dearly and he had used for last 30 years or how long. Typewriters are such that you have your handset. People these days don't know or remember typewriters, but when they were around, people used to have their hands set on their own typewriter. So that was a very prized possession of Srila Prabhupada, that typewriter. And it got stolen. And after that, Srila Prabhupada was actually, I'm telling you all this today. I don't know if you ever read it or is it in the, if it is in the book. Srila Prabhupada was actually physically attacked. Physically attacked and told to leave America. And he stayed against all of these things. So if we say, what is failure, or how should we accept defeat, or that we have failed, it doesn't seem like that kind of vocabulary was in Srila Prabhupada's dictionary. Because failing to do something for 40 years and then failing again, and then failing again, and then failing again, is what he did all his life, basically all his life, to try to establish this movement. But despite all that, he rose up from that, and somehow or other, he felt Krishna's mercy. When nothing was working out and he was living in Radha, one day he was sitting and contemplating that this is my dream, I want to fulfill the desire of my Guru. But because I have failed at everything I have ever tried, it doesn't seem like Krishna wants me to do it. And then, right out of the Samadhi, Srila Rupa Goswami came up and stood in front of Srila Prabhupada and said, no, you have to do it. It's only you who can do it. You have to fulfill the desire of your Guru. And on the ship, Srila Prabhupada got how many heart attacks? Two. After the last heart attack, to Srila Prabhupada's recollection, in his half sleep, Krishna himself came and he stabilized that ship, because the ship was in the rough waters, and that's what was triggering the heart attack situation. And even after he was attacked, he saw the power of Lord Nrsimhadev. So he stuck. He did not decide to pack my bags and go back. There was no bag to pack. We pack our bag to go someplace. If there is no bag, then there is not very much to decide. So then he gets this place called the Matchless Gifts. For $125, the address is 26 2nd Avenue. How many of you have seen that place? Many people have seen. And that part where Srila Prabhupada was performing the kirtan, where the devotees came. The park is not so far from the 2nd Avenue. It's just a few blocks of walk, and it's still there, and there's a plaque there installed by the city of New York that this is where the founder of the Hare Krishna movement was sitting under this tree to start this worldwide movement called the Hare Krishna. So at the 2nd Avenue, Srila Prabhupada was able to acquire an old thrown out typewriter, and he was typing again. So he would type. How would he pay his rent? $125 a month in 1965 was not that cheap. Even today, for somebody who's got nothing and no source of income, is not going to go out and work for anybody at $5 an hour, $125 could be a big amount to come up with. Even today. But he did it. How he did it is he used to type up his own Back to Godhead magazine. Type. So if he's using 3 pieces of carbon paper, then 4 copies would be printed at the same time. And there was no electronic system. To print another 4 copies, he had to type the whole thing over again. Every character and every space had to be typed all over again. And in that way, he made dozens of copies of his own Back to Godhead magazine, 1 page, and he would go out on the street and he would try to preach to people and tell them that this is my magazine that I have been trying to print. Would you please help us with a little donation? Somebody would give him a nickel, somebody would give him a dime, somebody would give him a quarter, and if he was really lucky, really hit a big one, somebody would give him $1. That's how he went and collected. And he did not just keep everything to pay his monthly rent. Then he said, okay, I want to do a program here. Every Tuesday, every Thursday, and every Saturday. 3 programs a week. Open invitation to everyone. And everyone who came, he would feed them full sumptuous prasad. And at that time, when he was having this much difficulty, There was no source of income. People who were coming were absolute hippies. After finishing eating, they would not even pick up their plate and take it to the garbage, let alone cleaning up the temple room or any such thing. After the Sunday feast, Srila Prabhupada was clean up the temple room, and he would go and clean up the kitchen, and he would clean up all the pots, all by himself. And at that time, he printed his own business cards, that just in case somebody wants my business card. So, look at his vision. On his business card, he wrote, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, the founder Acharya of the Hare Krishna movement. And in the next line, imagine this one, branches all over the world. When he had nothing. Branches all over the world. He doesn't know how he is going to pay the rent. He's practically begging for a dime and a nickel. And instead of being discouraged, he's typing up his business card and saying, we have branches all over the world. Later on, when the movement grew, the devotees who found that card, they questioned Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada, you wrote this at the 26th 2nd Avenue. What does this mean? Srila Prabhupada said, we have branches all over the world. They just haven't manifested yet. He had so much belief in that sentence that he printed up a business card to say that. And Krishna made his word come true. We have 550 centers around the world today. With his murti in 120 countries on every continent of this world. We have centers where practicing any kind of religion is against the law of the land. Any kind of religion is against the law of the land. We have centers there. They are hidden. Some places we get a special permission. Christianity is not allowed. Islam is not allowed. Hare Krishnas have a special permission. You go and do what you are doing. It's like that. Like in China. Just recently, on their main national Chinese TV, they showed our program for 20 minutes. No Chinese national TV has ever broadcasted a Catholic program, an Islamic program, nothing like that. It's just not allowed. Even today, it's not allowed. But they broadcasted, telecasted our kirtan, our devotees, their activity for 20 minutes. All over China. It's Srila Prabhupada's mercy that's still coming through. One day, somebody came to Srila Prabhupada and said, I have a guru. My guru is spiritually very advanced. He is a Siddha Mahapurush. If he goes like that in the air, he can produce Can you do anything like that? Srila Prabhupada said, no, I cannot do anything like that. I am incapable. But we have 89 centers around the world where we have deities, we have devotees, we have converted these hippies into the hippies, and they're doing the worship. And at every one of those centers, we have lots of apples. I don't need to produce one like this. Every center of ours has lots of apples. Do you have any apples here? So what is the big deal if somebody produced an apple? Produce something like what Srila Prabhupada has produced. Has brought all of us together. Who can do that? This is the real United Nations, Srila Prabhupada said. The real United Nations is under the umbrella of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. We're all the same. There's no difference. We do not discriminate against anybody because of their color, caste, creed. We don't care what nationality they come from. We don't care what gender they have, third or fourth or fifth or sixth. It's okay. For us, they're Jivatmas. They are spirit soul, is all that we look at, all that we care. And that is the system given to us by Srila Prabhupada. And he's following the system of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu always stood for that. Even in the, like I was thinking of this when I came yesterday, I saw Madaji's dress. He was looking very much of a cowherd boy with the short pants and was looking very beautiful cowherd boy. I was hoping to see the same dress today, but somehow it's changed. So that reminded me that when a sannyasi came to Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's house and Jagannath Mishra brought him in and said, okay, we will make you a meal. And the sannyasi said, no, I will make a meal for myself. He said, okay, I will have my wife clean up the kitchen and you can make your own. The sannyasi makes his meal and he tries to offer, and little Nimai comes and takes the offering. And the sannyasi gets mad. What are you doing? This offering was made for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Why did you contaminate it? And little Nimai said, you called me to come and eat your offering. That's why I came. I was so far beyond this person's imagination. He said, you run away! And made the offering again. So when it happened 2 or 3 times, everybody in the family was getting all upset at Nimai. So Mother Sachi Devi explained to Nimai, you know, Nimai, we are Brahmanas of the highest class. And this Brahmana here, God knows what kind of Brahmana he is. Although we respect him, but we don't eat any food cooked by a Brahmana of a lower caste, a lower class Brahmana. We don't do that. And what did Nimai say? I don't know what you're talking about. I'm just a cowherd boy. I don't know why you keep saying all Brahman, I am this and that. All I am is a cowherd boy. So when I saw Krishna in the cowherd boy outfit yesterday, it came to my mind that that's really what he liked to be called. Just a cowherd boy. That's all. Not that he would refuse that he is Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's the identity that he preferred more. So, in due course of time, in a few months, Srila Prabhupada founded ISKCON, and the registrar asked for the purpose of this organization. So Srila Prabhupada gave seven purposes of ISKCON. Actually, I don't have them going on the screen now. I'm trying to wrap up that issue and go to the next. But 3 of the 7 purposes of the foundation of ISKCON had something to do with education. So this movement is not for building temples, it is not for deity worship mainly, or any such thing. The biggest, the foremost purpose of this movement is to educate people about God or Krishna. Educate people how to become Krishna conscious and give them venue how to engage in Krishna's service, how to become Krishna conscious practically with so many other friends, God brothers, like-minded people around. Not just we give you this philosophy, you go home and follow it in your own way. No. We give you this philosophy and we give you practical examples and we give you a practical place like a building where you can actually practice Krishna consciousness. So the more we take advantage of everything that Srila Prabhupada has given us, has tried to give us, and has been, and for the future also, it is up to us to take most advantage of it. And taking most advantage is not only coming to the temple as a Hindu temple, but coming to the temple to learn something, to educate ourselves, so that we can educate others around us, our next generation, third generation, upper generation also, in many cases, co-workers, other friends we have. Encourage them, preach to them, understand Krishna consciousness, and be able to explain Krishna consciousness to others. Because if we do not understand it, how are we going to explain it? And if we cannot explain it, then we are going to be defeated by other people's arguments and we are going to lose faith. So we have to be strong in learning, understanding, and following the Krishna conscious way. So we're strong, we make others around us stronger, and keep growing. In every congregation, in every temple, there will always be a little hole in the bottom of the bucket. Because some people will always move, some people will have to move, or some people will go away, or whatever, something or other will happen. But the tap that's going into that bucket has to be much bigger than the hole in the bottom. That way it keeps filling up. Of course, we don't want a hole in the bottom. But the hole in the bottom is unavoidable. We're not going to force anyone. People are dying also. Getting old and dying. How are we going to stop that? So we always have to have more water going into the bucket. So hole doesn't matter. So some people have this misconception that the Hare Krishna movement is all about chanting on your beads. Chant the holy name. Yes, that's right. But if it was only about chanting on the beads, why did we need a temple? Why did Srila Prabhupada stay awake whole nights to give us all these books? He could have just told us, chant Hare Krishna and go back to Radhe. That's all. But he gave us all these books. He worked tirelessly to give us all this. And 3 times he mentioned in the purpose of founding ISKCON the word education. So our main business is education. Srila Prabhupada was once asked, how are you so successful in converting all these Christians into Hindus? How do you do that? Srila Prabhupada said, I'm not converting nobody into nobody. I am just converting people into becoming God conscious. If you are a Christian, remain a Christian, but become a better Christian. A proper Christian. And if you are a Muslim, become a proper Muslim. The Bible says, thou shalt not kill. And what is their definition? Kill means to kill another animal. But is it? When somebody kills their pet dog, they say, oh, that was the member of our family. And why is the chicken not? Also, the Muslims, the proper Muslims, they're called Sufis. They're priestly class. They don't eat meat. They don't consume any liquor. They're called Sufi. The rest of them, they try to get away with it by chanting a mantra in the animal's ear. My dear goat, please forgive me. I have to kill you this time to fulfill the desire of my tongue. But please, in the next life, you kill me in the same way and eat me up. Only problem is they don't know what they're chanting. They chant this without knowing the meaning. And even if they know the meaning, they think it's just a ritualistic thing that we're doing. It doesn't mean anything. But believe me, you say that in the animal's ear or you don't say that, it is going to be the same. That animal will come back and kill you. Because that's the law. So, Is that okay for Srila Prabhupada's katha?
Yes.
For ISKCON Foundation?
Very nice.
Srila Prabhupada ki
Jaya.
Any questions about the early days of ISKCON? I've been to that park, I've been to the 26 Second Avenue. Before that, Srila Prabhupada was at Bali, where he got attacked and he lived in a loft. And after that, all the other centers that he purchased in New York. And the first temple we ever established was in San Francisco. And the first deities that he ever established were at Soho Street in London. Shri, Radhe Landaneshwar. And the deities that are closest to his heart were Radha Shyam Sundar. That's why we chanted the Radha Shyam Sundar's name before doing Prabhupada Katha. Radha Shyam Sundar in Vrindavan at the Krishna Balram temple were the deities that were closest to his heart. And he named them Radha Shyam Sundar for a purpose. Maybe another day we will tell you the pastime of Radha Shyam Sundar. You know the pastime of Radha Shyam Sundar? Anybody? Nobody? From Dukhi Krishna Das? So we'll tell you sometime later. If we get into that today, we'll be completely gone. Another day. Alright? No questions from Srila Prabhupada's early time, early ISKCON? Yes?
I just wanted to know which is the smallest ISKCON temple in the world, where only few devotees are there and they have deities and they are listed as a center. I believe I had been in one place called Monterrey in Mexico, where I asked them, they said we have only 6 or 7 devotees and there is a very small temple. But I don't know whether it's the smallest, but they have so much devotion. I think it's a family and they are running that. There will be some other one, I don't know. But
You're right. In many parts of the world, we have temples where there are no devotees from Indian background, no devotees born in a Hindu family, and there is no congregation member born in a Hindu family. The whole congregation, the whole temple worship, the whole temple, A to Z work is taken care of by devotees who were not born in Hindu families and don't have anything to do with India. But there is one instruction that they must follow. They like to have their own local food. In Mexico, they like all their Mexican food. And they wanted to offer that to the deities. And Srila Prabhupada said no. This Krishna on the altar is from Vrindavan. He likes puri, sabji, chawal, dal. Rajbhog must be proper dal, chawal, sabji, puri. Nothing else. You want to offer other things? Put them on his plate. But he must have all these items. Halwa must be halwa. Kheer. These items cannot be replaced by any of your local cooking. Italians, you know how proud they are of their Italian food. The whole world is after the Italian food in a way. Wherever in this, I haven't been to one ISKCON temple where devotees don't run for pizza. Maybe Calgary is one. Nobody cares about pizza here. This is Italian food, and the Italians are very, very proud of their Italian food. But they're not allowed to offer that to their God. They must have dal, chawal, sabji, puri, halwa. After that, you put on pizza, whatever, spaghetti, everything goes. But you must have. I think from your definition, this is probably one of the smallest temples. We have one devotee who lives here. Mother Kalindi also, we doubled in the population. But you are right, it's not the size of the temple, it's the devotion that counts. These devotees are so dedicated. They are so much more dedicated than us, born in the Hindu families. Because really, what are we doing that is so foreign? We are born in this culture. What is our accomplishment? Following 4 regulatory principles is a big accomplishment for us. Not really. But for these people, whose tens of generations in their families have not known what it is, what does it mean to follow a regulatory principle? And them following, and so strictly, their pujaris will not wear anything other than the dhoti and kopeen on the altar. Here in North America, everything is going. And these are devotees who have never seen India, and they probably will never see India in the rest of their life, because a ticket to go to India is more money than they hope to make in the next 20 years if they saved everything. I have met devotees like that. They have never been to India, and the only way they can go to India is that they win a lottery and they will not buy a ticket, so that there goes that hope. How do you win a lottery without buying a ticket? So that breaks the regulator principle, so they will not do that. And there is no other hope of them going to India, because it's so much money to their financial status. So much money that they just cannot even imagine how this would happen. That's okay? Anything else? Then we move on to our Bhagavatam overview. We did how many cantos yesterday? 8 cantos? Any questions in 8 cantos?
There was one word called impetus or something. There was a word.
Impetus?
Yeah. So what is the meaning of that?
Impetus is like a, why do I want to do anything? पापी पेट के लिए. अगर पापी पेट नहीं होता तो किसी चीज की क्या जरूरत थी? कौन काम पे जाता? General form, it's lot more than that, but just to get an idea is why we do things. Why does the population increase? Because there is some kind of desire in people that is built into their minds and heads and whatever by God that makes them recreate. if it wasn't there, filled into us by God, it's a lot of trouble to recreate. And to bring up these children, my God, that's a lot of work. There is no machine that's made to bring up your children yet. You still have to do it manually. So, it's this kind of things that keep the world rolling. Like the philosophy that's preached by Lord Buddha is everybody become a brahmachari and brahmacharini. What would that do? That would bring us to an end very quickly, because there is nobody behind us. Soon as we die, that's it, it's over. But that's not the right thing, because Brahma did not create this world to end it like that. So that's why there are things that are made by God to, like we talked about how the water keeps reproducing itself. It's not coming from anywhere, it's here, it just cycles. So are we. We are also cycling. Our children, their children, so on, that wheel keeps rolling. Everything is in motion. Although everything is coming to an end, but then it's coming up again. So, what is such a big deal? Because it's coming to an end, it comes up again. Why bother? That's why it's said in the Bhagavad Gita. The investment netade, kamaram yamamira. Tadadhyanta prapti dirastatra namudi. Just because somebody died, why are you crying over that? You didn't cry when he was a boy and became an adult. The boy actually died for him to become an adult. Do we cry over anybody becoming an adult? Oh, he lost his boyhood. We don't do that. So why do we cry over somebody losing their oldhood? Because after losing the oldhood, you get the newhood. You get the baby's body again. So this should be a reason to celebrate. Why do we cry over it? Because we don't understand the cycle. We're too attached to that body, which was made of these 5 elements anyways. It came from the 5 elements, it went back into 5 elements. And everything in this world is made from these 5 elements, and it will go back into these 5 elements. We take our peels from the veggies and put them in the compost. What happens? It turns into soil again. And that soil is then used to grow more veggies. So it's a complete cycle. This is a shorter cycle that we can see with our eyes. But everything else is also in a cycle. It's a bigger cycle. Some are much bigger cycles than our lives. So that's why we do not see. People say this styrofoam cup will take 200 years to biodegrade. But what would happen after 200 years? This cup will biodegrade. It will not beat the nature. Nothing beats the nature. Where do you think this cup comes from? Does it come from the sky? It comes from petroleum. Where does petroleum come from? It comes from nature. So, the environmentalists are right. They are asking you to reduce or recycle or whatever. But really, in a longer vision, this came from nature and it's going to go back into the nature. It's just going to take longer, that's all. It cannot take forever. everything will biodegrade. Everything has come from the 5 elements, will go back and mix into the 5 elements. No matter what. There is no exception. One day it will go back into it. But then when this body goes back into the 5 elements, we cry over it. Everything came from there, it's going to go back in. I guess the class is becoming too boring for our children today. That's okay? Whose question was it? Okay?
Yeah.
Any other question?
I wanted to ask you about the Rahu Ketu, that Rahu which you mentioned.
Oh, you want to hear the whole katha about it? Madhurya Leela Mataji is in the katha mood. She's had too much philosophy. So as we were explaining the churning of the milk ocean, the churning of the ocean produced so many things. The poison came out of it. And whatever came out, the devatas and the asuras were supposed to share. Somehow or the other, we would share. So when the poison came out, the asuras backed off. We don't want the poison. If the devatas drank the poison, they would all die. And if the asuras drank the poison, they would all die. So on the side of the asuras, Lord Shiva stood up. He said, okay, I will protect the devatas, give the poison to them, and I will consume it on their behalf. He didn't consume the poison on behalf of the asuras, he consumed it on behalf of the devatas. So devatas, in a way, got the poison, and then the nectar came out. So the asuras says, now nectar belongs to us. Well, you were not there to share the poison, then why do you want to share the nectar? If you want to share everything. You didn't share poison with us, we will not share the nectar with you. So the war broke out. The whole purpose of this whole exercise was that, as Ashutosh is not here today, he was saying yesterday that 5-6 times the asuras go, the devatas go to Brahma, and I said no, they go to Brahma thousands of times. It's because there's always a fight between the devatas and the asuras. So the asuras say that we are always in this fight with them, and we get so much damage and loss. Can you please figure out a way to make us more powerful than them? So Brahma says yes, we can do that. You dig out the nectar from the ocean of milk and you drink the nectar, then you will become invincible. But how is that going to happen? Well, that devatas cannot do alone, the devatas and asuras have to do it together. So they get together and churn. So just because the asuras are not willing to share the poison, the devatas said, we will not share the nectar with you. And when the war broke out, there was no end to the war. So the Supreme Lord took a special incarnation in the form of a beautiful woman called Mohini Murti. And he said, okay, I will distribute this nectar the way I want. Everybody agrees? Yes, yes, we agree. You distribute it whatever way you want, because now they are completely flattered at the beauty of this Mohini Murti. You know, the beautiful women always have their way. So, everybody agreed. So Mohini Murti was feeding the nectar to the Devatas and regular water from a pot to the Asuras. And they were thinking that they're getting the same nectar as the. But the Lord of the Moon saw that this, one Asura who was sitting right in the front, he noticed that this Mohini Murti is actually giving us nectar from a different pot. The Asuras are getting nectar from a different pot, the Suras are getting the nectar from a different pot. He was able to notice. So he quickly got up and converted his being into looking like a Devata and sat on the other side. Mohini Murti went and gave him the nectar. But the moon noticed. So, the Mohini Murti, that one is not this is not a Devata, it's a Asura sitting in the wrong line. Yeah, are you sure? Then Surya got up. Yes, I witness he is Asura sitting in the wrong line. That Asura was Rahu. So soon as Mohini Murti found out that this is confirmed, the wrong guy sitting in the wrong line, she pulled out the Sudarshan Chakra and cut his head off. But it was too late. The head had already had the nectar, and so did the body. They both have had nectar now. Cut the head off, they were both alive. Because now they cannot die, they have nectar. They have drunk the nectar, they cannot die. So, Rahu complained, you cut my head off. I know you were not giving us nectar. You, Mohini Murti, you are a cheat. You were cheating us. And I only opened up your bluff by sitting in the other line. You are the one who's bluffing. You have no right to punish me, to cut my head off. The Lord said, okay, it's all right. I cut your head off, but you will not die. You already had it. And we will give you a boon in exchange. That one day, every so many days, so many months, you will be able to cover the sun and the moon because they both testified against you. So Rahu was actually mad at the sun and the moon. That these guys, they had no right to complain against me. I did the right thing. I was promised nectar, I got nectar. So okay, they did that to you, you can do it to them. So, the day of the sun eclipse is always Rahu in between the sun and the earth. So in his orbit, that Rahu comes in between the sun and the earth one day, and that day we call the solar eclipse. But then there is Ketu, because the rest of his body is still alive. So he's become two persons. So Rahu is the head and the body is called Ketu. So Ketu comes in between the moon and the earth on the day of moon eclipse. That's the only way a moon eclipse can occur, if the Ketu is in between. And the only way for solar eclipse to occur is that Rahu is in between. So these are, Rahu and Ketu are the same people. All this information is not given in Srila Prabhupada's books. But it's given that in one conversation, somebody asked, okay, Srila Prabhupada, the head is Rahu. What is Ketu? Srila Prabhupada said, that's the rest of him. So it's not in any of the books. He never explained this. But in a conversation, he said, Ketu is the rest of Rahu. And Rahu, he already explained, is the head of the Rahu that was killed or cut the head off by Mohini Murthy. So he said the rest of it is Ketu. So that's the only confirmation in Srila Prabhupada's books. Anybody needs any confirmation on anything, I say, please ask me. Don't ask anybody else. Or ask me first, before saying it's not in Srila Prabhupada's books. Because sometimes things are in Srila Prabhupada's books in a hidden way. I give you another example. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is mentioned that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to this forest, Dandakaranya, and he saw these tree stumps, 7 tree stumps that were cut off, and they were living in a half dead, half alive kind of state, because they've been cut off, and they are that kind of tree. It doesn't grow anymore. Most trees, you cut them off, other branches would come. Not this kind of tree. It's called tar. Tar tree, once cut off the top, it will never grow, but it won't dry. So I say that these are the 7 trees that Lord Ram killed when he was on Vanvas. Sugriv told Lord Ram that my brother Bali is so powerful that he can pierce one of these tar trees by one of his arrows. And when he shoots an arrow, it will go through one of these big tar tree, and it will come out of the other side and still keep going straight. His arrow is so powerful, he has so much strength that he can shoot an arrow like that. So before you fight with Bali, can you test your arrows, your strength on one of these trees? And Lord Ram said, sure, I'll do that for you. And there were 7 trees in a row. Lord Ram shot one arrow and cut off all 7 of them instead of one. So that made Bali happy and satisfied that yes, this guy has the strength to fight my brother. I have never found a person who has this much strength. So he says he wants to fight Bali, but so many people have tried to fight Bali, nobody's ever won from Bali. So these trees were still standing, the 7 trees. And I said in a lecture that Lord Chaitanya went, and those were the same 7 trees that Lord Ram had cut. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu goes there, embraces one of those trees, stumps at a time, and while embracing, the whole tree stump disappears and goes back to Godhead. And he did that for each one of the 7 trees. And he sent them all back to Godhead. And it is mentioned that by his mercy, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu could even send a tree back to Godhead. What about you? Are you duller than a tree? Are we that bad? If he can send a tree back to Godhead. But it doesn't say that these were the same trees. So this devotee who was hearing went to tell all the other devotees in the congregation, oh, Akrura doesn't know what he's talking about. These are not the 7 same trees. Srila Prabhupada never said that, this, that, and the other. Of course, Srila Prabhupada doesn't say that. But he says in the foreword, these are the 7 trees that are mentioned in the Kishkinda Kand of Ramayana. Then, which other 7 trees are mentioned in the Kishkinda Kand of the Ramayana? Add Dandakaranya. That's a big enough clue. But if you don't know what is in the Kishkinda Kand, then you don't know what Srila Prabhupada is talking about. If you know what is in the Kishkinda Kand, then you have the connection. It's right there. These were the 7 trees over there. There's the 7 trees over here. There's a direct connection. So Srila Prabhupada doesn't say that these are the trees that were shot by Lord Ram, but he mentions the Kishkinda Kand. It's in the Kishkinda Kand. So that's why sometimes we make a connection in the Shastra for some reason, and some devotees don't understand the connection because it is not given in clear words. But if you ask the speaker, then you can get the information firsthand rather than having to go around chasing the tail and going around and around, finding the answer later. So, did we have any questions on sthana, the spiritual hierarchy? No? Poshana, how the Lord protects, cares for everybody, but special care for the devotees? No? Uti is the impetus. We had the question on that. Lord Rishabdev, Bharat Maharaj, oh yeah, Manvantar. Is Manvantar clear to everyone now? Is Manvantar clear to everyone now? How many people is the Manvantar clear to? Kulbhushan? 1. Gopika says half. 50%. How many percent for you?
Maybe 25.
25? 50? Okay, so we have 50 and 50 in the same household. And everybody else? So which aspect of the Manvantar is not clear? Should I explain the whole thing or the aspect that's not clear?
I guess explain the whole thing, then everybody will understand.
Agree? How many agree with Kulbhushan? And don't agree with Kulbhushan? So quick summary, the Kali Yuga is 432,000 years and Dwapar is 864,000 years. Treta is 12.96 and Satyug is 17.28. Okay? So every yuga, if we go backwards, is double, triple, 4 times. Like that. So people of the yuga also have ages that way. In Kali Yuga, our age is supposed to be like 100, roughly. Not that everybody is making it to 100, but roughly. In the Dwapar, the age is supposed to be 1,000. 100, 1,000. In Treta, supposed to be 10,000. So that's why in Treta, when Lord Ram comes, average age is 10,000, he rules for 11,000 years. In in Satyug, the age of every person is something like 100,000 years. So when we read the Shastra and find out that somebody did something for so many years, we think, oh, this is all mythology. How is this possible? Well, those are not the people of your yuga. They had 10,000 years. 100,000 years. So if they perform tapasya for 20,000 years out of that, is not really. So it's understandable. So achieving perfection or achieving God or achieving devotional service or love of God also takes that much longer. So in Satyug, you have to perform tapasya for so many years. And similarly in other yugas. So these are subtle differences in the different yugas. So all of this together is 10 times of Kali Yuga, which makes 4.3 million years, and that's one Yoga Chakra. As soon as one Yoga Chakra ends, what happens? The next begins. Right away. The next begins. So the Satyug comes right back at the end of the Kali Yuga. There was a small destruction. Kalki would finish everything. And Satyug comes back. So it's like a hard drive that's been formatted now, reformatted. It's new again. Yes?
Stupid question. So the incarnations of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, does he come every Yuga Chakra, or is it like he only comes at certain ones? And then is Kalki, does he come every one?
Yes.
Oh, he comes every one? Okay.
Kalki comes for every one of the Yuga Chakra. Many of the avatars come every Yuga Chakra. They come. They're scheduled. But of course, they're Vishnu Tattva, so they have a free will. Nobody can make them. They have a free will. They appear or not appear. But Krishna only comes once in the one day of Brahma. And that calculation, as Kulbhushan informed us yesterday, was the 7th Manvantar and 28th Yoga Chakra. So when the Yoga Chakra turns, that makes 4.3 million years, 4.32 million years is only one Yoga Chakra. That way, when it turns 71 times, whole 71 times, that is one Manvantar. And this canto explains, the skanda, that for every Manvantar, there is one Manu who is in charge of that Manvantar. So that Manvantar has a name. And our today's Manu is, other than Kulbhushan, who knows? I mean, he's not the Manu, but he probably knows the name. It's a good thing I cleared that up, man. Yes, Kulbhushan.
Vishwan.
Where was
Vivaswara.
Vivaswan is the Surya.
Son of
Son of
son, I guess.
Yeah.
Let's see, right? Son of son.
Son of Vivaswan. Surya is also demigod. So every time the 71 Yuga Chakras turn, all the demigods are finished. And then they're born again. New demigods are born. Same name, same position, new soul takes up that role. Like I'm sitting here at the Vyasasana today, tomorrow somebody else is sitting here, day after somebody else is sitting here. So the new soul doing the same service. So Manvantaras, 14 times the Manvantaras turn, that is one day of Brahma. And that is only the day, 12 hours. Then he has a night that long. So at night, who protects us? Because Brahma goes to sleep. Who protects us is Krishna in the form of Matsya Avatar. He puts us all in a boat and he protects us in that boat all night until Brahma wakes up. So when you see the lotus feet of any divine personality, you will always see a fish in there. You go to check out Radharani's lotus feet, there is a fish. Krishna's lotus feet, Nityananda's, Nimai's,
Where is the fish?
there's always,
Underneath?
yeah, they always have a fish. Because that fish stands for protection. That fish protects us all night of Brahma. Now imagine the night. This is 1,000 Yuga Chakras worth. That's 4.32 billion years. That fish is protecting us, or the fish incarnation of Lord Vishnu is our protector. Then comes the next step. And that way, after about 29 days, the month completes, and 360 days, 1 year completes. And in that way, Brahma lives for 100 years. How old is our Brahma today? He's 57. So this world is not coming to an end that soon. There's another 43 years worth of Brahma's life left. Before a total dissolution of this Brahmanda. And that's a long time. Just the time left in this Kali Yuga is 427,000 years. Hopefully we will not live to see the day, at least not in this body. You hoping, Veena? Yeah? You can try. So is it getting clearer? So every day of Brahma, 14 Manvantars, and every Manvantar, 14 Manvantars, Manu is in charge, is like a father of mankind, Manu, who we all come from. And every Manvantar, there is a different Manu, and the Manvantar is recognized by that Manu's name. Just like somebody may say, oh, when Yudhishthira Maharaj used to be president of this temple, such and such used to happen. Such and such used to happen differently or better or worse or whatever. So we remember that time with the head of the organization at that time. So similarly, we discussed that time of the Manu with that Manu's name, that was the ruling Manu at that time. Clearer? So mainly that is what this canto is giving, that how the time goes and how is it divided into periods and how it is controlled by different Manus, and it also teaches the regulative principles of the living beings who desire to achieve perfection in human life. So, for examples, it talks about King Chitraketu, talks about Ajamil, talks about Vritrasura, and so on.
And why did Indra kill Vritrasura?
Because Vritrasura was creating disturbance in the heavenly planets and all that. So Indra had to kill him. But then Indra didn't know his eternal identity. So that's why the Brahmatya got behind him, because he was a very exalted, spiritually exalted Brahman. So then there is the Ishanu Katha. We will be going more into the Ishanu Katha canto. So that's why we will leave it alone for now. Nirodha. Nirodha stands for the